Welcome everyone to an episode of Hard Work Beats Talent. Today we are going to draw upon some of our own experiences so that you can learn from our wisdom, hopefully, a little bit, and also the mistakes that we made so that you don't have to make them. So, Niki, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Alex. I'm good. It's been a busy weekend, but feeling fresh now. Had a little workout this morning, buzzing.
Good stuff.
All good.
Good stuff.
All good.
So, as I said, we're going to go through our experiences. So, the episode's going to run that. I'll ask Niki some questions about him, his journey, why hard work beats talent's important to him. And he's then going to ask me about my journey and go through some of the similar questions. So, starting from the top, for the listeners.
Let's go.
Who are you? What you do? Elevator pitch.
So, my name is Nikita. Friends call me Niki for short. I am of Ukrainian origin, born in Ukraine, moved with my family to the UK at the age of 5, 1993. We settled here, been here for a long time now, almost 30 years. I'm a solicitor, commercial lawyer by profession. Also, involved with family business. We do a little bit of property. We have a holiday cottage that we let out as a holiday let as well. So I have quite a broad spectrum of activities, keeps me busy. That's about it really. Most of my time focused on my legal profession, qualifying. That took a long time. Got into the profession, do some stuff on the side as well. That's about it really.
Cool. So you mentioned you're a solicitor, which is very impressive, I think. What does that actually look like day to day?
Says another solicitor.
For now.
Yeah.
I had my last day yesterday. But what does being a solicitor actually look like for the benefit of our listeners day to day? What does it involve?
So I think, it's really important to note, if that's the kind of profession you want to go into, be under no sort of illusions that, it's a walk in a park, it's, easy, stress-free. It's a great profession, great opportunities. It's challenging, but you have to work hard. You have to dedicate quite a lot of time and effort and energy into not just the work side, but also building your career, qualifying, the education side as well. It's all quite intense. But certainly for myself and my personal experience, I think it was very much a worthwhile sort of period of my life and sort of getting through all of the hard work and qualifying. I certainly think it was worth it. So I think, as a first point, you do have to work hard. You have to really graft to get into it. But now sort of, day to day, it's an office-based job. So I'm a commercial solicitor, which means that a lot of my time it involves negotiating contracts with our customers. So I'm currently working in the telecommunications industry. So we sell all sorts of connectivity type services, security services, those types of things to our customers. And once those services are sold, we step in as the legal professionals to negotiate the contracts with our customers and make sure that all of the relevant provisions and clauses are in there to protect ourselves and also to ensure that we deliver what the customer wants.
So I think, for the benefit of our listeners, it's important, and it'll become clear through this episode that there is a delineation in law between people who work in private practice and in-house.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
What Niki's describing is working for a company and drafting and negotiating the contracts on that company's behalf. When we come on to my part, we'll talk a little bit more about working for a law firm who's actually advised by Niki. So Niki could theoretically be a client of mine, advising me
absolutely.
To carry out legal services on his behalf. But Niki's role involves being quite close to the business. And
indeed. So you make some really good points there. So I should have probably led with this. So I work in the telecoms industry, thinking people will appreciate sort of the fact that I work in-house. So as you say, distinction. So I work in-house, which is essentially there's a legal department within a company, could be any company, and we are a team of solicitors. Some companies, they'll have more generalist type of solicitors, so they will dabble in a little bit of corporate law, maybe some commercial, sort of do bits and bobs of various different things. We have quite a large team where I work, so we have lawyers. We have a corporate team, we have a commercial team, litigation, data protection lawyers as well. So there's quite a broad range of lawyers. So yeah, very different to yourself, where you've been working in private practice, which is a law firm. But as you say, we do also outsource to law firms because either it's resource restraints, or we need specialist advice on certain topics, and things like that. So we do draw upon private practice lawyers as well.
Cool. And what would you say are the most important skills for your role? And were you born with those skills, or were they things that you developed as time went on?
Very interesting question. So I guess, hitting the summary of some of the key skills that I've acquired, I would say, over time. Certainly I wouldn't sort of profess to having had certain skills. I mean, there are a lot of skills that, I did pick up throughout sort of my upbringing, certain values and things like that. But there were a lot of skills that were quite specific to being a solicitor. And I think as a lawyer, there are aspects where you have to think quite differently, very abstractly. You have to have, attention to detail has to be one of the top things. You have to be articulate in the way you speak, good with people. So the kind of things I'd say I wasn't necessarily born with would be, the critical thinking side. That's a skill I really had to develop over time. And we'll probably touch on this when we talk about education, but I did a critical thinking A level. It was an AS level. It didn't progress to A level. It was purely an AS level, but it wasn't a subject that I necessarily excelled in. I think at the time, I was still finding myself academically when I was in school. And it was a topic that I thought, well, first of all, it was very interesting. And certainly it started to pull out a lot of the types of ways of thinking that you have to apply as a solicitor. And it was something I was considering, so I thought it'd be good to try. But I found it really difficult. I wouldn't say I did particularly well in that topic at the sort of exam level. So yeah, it wasn't a natural skill for me. I had to develop that over time. And I think as I progressed through university and actually got into doing the practical work, I really started to develop those skills, thinking outside the box. And almost, I find you, especially when you read contracts and you try to interpret language, you really have to flip things on their head. Certain provisions and the way they're worded, you really have to flip it on its head and think about it in a different way. So that's something I had to work on. Attention to detail, that's really comes down to focus and being able to maintain an attention span for long periods of time, because let's not, beat around the bush. This isn't the sexiest job, it's not necessarily the most exciting, depending on what you do,
Debatable.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Harvey Specter, you might be really excited. But look, when you're reading a 200-page contract, and you're trying to work out how certain service credits are going to be calculated, it's not super exciting. So you have to be able to maintain your attention for long periods of time. So that's something I really had to kind of just develop, because now we live in this technological sort of generation. We have a lot of distractions. So being able to step away from that and just focus and build the habit of focus was really important. So I did that throughout my time as well, getting into the career.
Interesting. And a couple of things there I think really resonate with me. Firstly, you mentioned that although you appreciate now in reflection the benefits of that critical thinking course, it wasn't something you necessarily excelled in at the time.
Yeah.
Yet here you are as a successful solicitor. So I think kind of takeaway message there is your initial results don't necessarily define your long-term trajectory.
Absolutely. And what I will say, we will talk about this on the education piece when we touch on my education. You will see that I didn't excel necessarily through my A levels and stuff like that. So,
And then the other point there was around the fact that these aren't skills Niki necessarily purely has. They're always continuously being developed. And I like to think about things in those terms. And we'll talk about it a bit when it comes on to my part. But it's not that you now have critical analysis skills. It's actually your ability to critically analyze content develops and is honed through your work. And viewing things in those terms, I think, can be quite helpful because there is no end destination. It's that the continuous hard work makes you better at what it is you're building as a skill set. Yeah.
Just one more point to make, I guess, as one of the sort of key types of characteristics that that you need to sort of focus on if you're thinking about becoming a solicitor is you have to be good with people. You have to be a good communicator. And I've come across, I've been in this profession now since 2011-12, right? So it's been a while. And I've come across a lot of lawyers, I've worked with a number of people, and I've come across people that weren't necessarily the best at maybe reading the room or just communicating on calls where there's a bit of a game going on because you're trying to get the best position for your client and things like that, but at the same time you have to remember the bigger picture is you're trying to achieve the same goal, right? The finish line is ultimately very close and closely aligned. So I don't believe that there's any need to maybe cause tension or those types of things. So being a good communicator is incredibly important. I think if that's something you're considering, be mindful of it. Do a bit of reading, listen to some podcasts, and try and put those skills into action. Practice on your friends, practice on your relatives without saying anything. Just see how people respond differently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, sorry, I've realised that some of our listeners will have heard you use the term solicitor and lawyer interchangeably.
Yeah, Americanisms.
Yeah, and also barrister. Do you want to just, before we move on, describe the differences between those terms?
Yeah, sure. So for anyone that's looking to become a solicitor, you'll notice and see that there are several routes that you can take. So solicitor, lawyer, interchangeable term. Again, it's like a lawyer is an Americanism, I suppose, that we maybe use here. Solicitor is the official name for someone of our profession. And a solicitor really, conducts and advises clients on predominantly non-contentious work, meaning they don't go to court, although we'll get into the intricacies. Some solicitors may go to court, but in the main, they don't go to court. They don't represent their clients in court, particularly in respect to criminal proceedings. They are mostly civil. They deal with civil matters, and they cover a real broad range of topics, whether it's tax, immigration, commercial, corporate, the list is very long, construction. So that's a solicitor. It's a different route to qualifying, and we'll get onto that as well. But if you're looking to do something where you're going to advise clients, you're going to research the law, you might have to do drafting, which is putting the words into the contract, negotiating, things like that, then maybe going down the solicitor path is more for you. And on the other side, you have a barrister. Again, the route to that qualification is quite different. You have to do some different courses, and the training is very different as well. But barristers predominantly represent clients in court on criminal proceedings, and either defend or on the prosecution side. They're sort of self-employed. They sit in chambers, work quite independently. So that's really the main differences.
And well, thanks, Niki, for that. And what we're talking about is the solicitor side. So the working in a building, as it were, with other people towards a common objective, as opposed to the self-employed situation that a barrister finds themselves in.
Yeah,
working in the chambers. So yeah, you alluded to it in your answer to the last question, but it'd be helpful, I think, if you could describe your journey into the legal sector. And actually, before you do, I have a little anecdote.
Okay, go for it.
One skill you didn't mention that I know you have in abundance,
okay,
which I think is fundamental for a successful career in the legal sector, is resilience.
Oh,
and my anecdote,
hot take,
comes from a time. In fact, it was last year. We were away in Mallorca. Group of us having a good time.
Yeah.
And we were playing drinking games. It was the heaviest night, I think. Maybe we got to bed about 5 o'clock in the morning.
It was a great trip. We all have to blow off steam as well.
Work hard, play hard. And
exactly.
All that. But you, and as all of us were I think quite. You had a heavy night, but you were the designated driver. So we
always
got up the next day, and I think about midday you had to drive us across the island to something, and my beautiful fiance now turned to you and said,
shout out Rachel,
big shout out. She asked you, she said, "Are you going to be all right to drive, Niki?" And without hesitation, you responded, "I'm very resilient." I was like, spitting facts.
I
just wanted to
appreciate that.
Give that before talking about your journey into the sector, because I think that's highly relevant.
That was very good segue, actually, Alex, and I appreciate you bringing that up and sort of picking that up in terms of my within my character and whatever. But I mean, look, I've had a very unconventional journey into the profession. Resilience was critical because nothing was guaranteed for me given my path. Nothing's guaranteed for anyone, right? It's all about dedication, hard work, consistency, all of that stuff. So if we skip forward in terms of my education to the university phase, I couldn't decide what to do at the time. I had a period of rebellion where, I think having had discussions with my mum, who is a huge influence in my life, we'll talk a bit about that as well. She being a Ukrainian mum as well, very traditional in upbringing, the typical sort of lawyer, doctor, accountancy, engineer, those are the kind of things that parents, will typically want you to consider going into. And I thought, no, I'm going to rebel. I'm going to do whatever, something that I think I'm going to be passionate about and things like that. And so I actually had a place to go to the London Metropolitan University to study psychology. Because I thought that's something that I would have a keen interest in and sort of potentially be a counsellor to sort of take it from there. So I went along with that, and then probably a week before induction, I decided, actually I don't think this is going to be for me. I'm not sure it's going to be a right fit, and ultimately if I wanted to do something that's going to help people, well, look, fast forward 10, 11 years, look where we are and what we're doing. So there are other ways to do it as well. So anyway, I didn't know what I wanted to do at that point. I decided to take a gap year. I didn't do anything necessarily traditional in that sense. I just worked for a year, just enjoyed myself, spent some money, went out with friends, and I was living at home.
Got to know yourself, maybe.
Really got to know myself. And to go back to the point where I was saying where I was at school and I kind of hadn't found myself academically yet. This year that I took out was so fundamental in me progressing onto the next phase of my life. So, didn't leave school with the best A levels by any stretch. I had to resit a year at A levels as well. Went through quite a difficult period in the first year. We suffered a family bereavement and had to go back to Ukraine and things like that. So life takes its hold, and we all have our journeys, and we have to go through stuff sometimes. And I went through myself some difficult stuff off the back of that. Some sort of stress, anxiety type mental health issues that I had to overcome as well. And again, building on these were all the building blocks for that resilience. As you grow up, and particularly that sort of those late teen years are really difficult. A lot of people are finding themselves. So moving through that, I took a gap year, really took the time to get to know myself, meet some new people and expand my horizons. And then I just went through the UCAS website and I was scrolling through, looking at things that I might be interested in. And lo and behold, there was a course that was commercial law and business management. And I've always been quite keen and interested, even in those earlier days, in business, the commercial side of business. And so I thought, this sounds quite interesting, actually. Yeah, it's right up my street. And when I looked at where it was based, where the course was, it was at a place called St. Mary's University. At the time, it was University College. They've now gained their university status. So I thought, wow, that's literally 15 minutes up the road from my house. So I applied, got my place for the following academic year, and off I went. And after my little rebellious phase, I ended up kind of following in the path that my mum had encouraged me to follow.
It is funny that how on reflection you realise that your parents were kind of right all along.
Look, not to say they're always right.
But
however, I think your parents know you
sometimes
best,
better than you know
right?
yourself,
And especially at that age, they've seen a lot of life. They've had a lot of experiences, and I think they probably do know you a little bit better than you may know yourself at that point.
And I'm definitely going to talk about this a lot in my section of this, but I don't think you should underestimate the power of being able to leverage your parents' wisdom.
Oh, man. And, that's such a huge point, because I think we're so determined to be independent and, strong and, in some ways stubborn. And actually, my perspective or, my view is, you should really leverage other people's experiences and knowledge and use that because they've lived through it. Why make the same mistakes someone else has made when you can circumvent the mistake and actually take their wisdom, be more efficient, be more effective, and you can progress from there, So you might actually make your own mistakes along the way without having to reinvent the wheel, right? So it's super important to listen to not just your parents, but just people around you to get that.
And that's not to say that you have to take everything as gospel.
No.
I'm a big fan of. I described it to my fiance's brother the other day. I try and adopt the best traits of the people that I interact with / books that I read. But you don't have to take on everything. You take bits that make sense to you, and that's part of the critical analysis skill, right?
Absolutely.
That is what critical analysis is. It's doing the best with what you have, and discarding the rest.
Yeah,
but
and taking a holistic view, you can take pieces from different aspects of people's lives, their experiences on things, and build your own picture. So just to sort of finish up on my journey to qualification. So I did the commercial law and business management course. It was a good mix of the business side, the legal side. I covered most topics that you would cover on a law degree. So if you're going in to study law, you would do an LLB, typically in law, which is what, colloquially we call the straight law degree. So I did a joint honours. I didn't cover criminal law, equity and trusts, or property law, because they're not really commercially focused. And those three make up some of the core topics when you are going into become a solicitor, and you need to have covered that, in addition to things like company law, European law, when at the time when I was doing it. What else was there? Contract law, tort. I think and then criminal property and equity. Those are the key topics. So I finished my degree, and I left with a first class honours.
Big up.
Come on, proud of that, and I will plug that on this podcast. But it's just to say, look, I left school with like DDE at A level, right? And you may not even have known that, right? I don't really talk about it too openly, but I wasn't super proud of that, but I was determined. I was resilient. I knew I wasn't going to give up. I knew I was going to get there. And considering where I am now, I wouldn't say I'm hugely behind. So going into uni, I got my first class degree. I then went on to do the graduate diploma in law, which is the sort of conversion course people talk about, because I needed to complete those 3 modules that I didn't do on my degree. I did that part-time while working. I then did the legal practice course, again, part-time, night school, which is the next phase of your training. It's a compulsory course, although some of that might be changing now with some of the new rules coming in. And then I went into work, and I knew I needed to get experience because, again, didn't have the best A levels. I didn't go to like red brick uni, I didn't have loads of contacts. My parents didn't have many contacts. So I went in and I knew I was going to have to prove myself. I needed to gain experience, learn my craft, and I'll get there eventually. And so my route into actually finally qualifying was following the equivalent means process, which is instead of doing a training contract, which is what you did when you went into a law firm, you finished your academic stage and then you went into your vocational stage, did your LPC, and you went to do a 2-year training contract in your law firm. I didn't do that. So I basically worked, gained experience, and when I had covered enough areas of law and had the appropriate experience where I ticked off all of the Solicitor Regulation Authority requirements, I basically put it all down into an application form, proved all of my work with evidence, and submitted it to the SRA. They reviewed it, scrutinized it, and then finally I got my qualification. So I was enrolled and got my certificate. So we got there in the end.
Just very quickly, how long did that process take then between graduating to getting to where you got to now?
So I graduated in 2011. In terms of age years, I was 2 years behind because I had to resit a year of my A-levels. And then I took a gap year. So I qualified a couple of years behind my age group, so to speak. And then I went straight into work. I actually worked for a telecoms company out of uni, and I think it's really important we touch on how I got that job, because again, this just goes to, if you're good with people, if you know how to communicate, if you put your best foot forward, you're genuine, people will help you. Honestly, it's just this, like, it's a gem of life, and
it's a long-term view.
It's a long-term view, man.
Because it's often easy to do the things in the short term which get you short-term results. But
and people always get found out as well, right? You can only pretend to be something or someone else for so long. Eventually, you'll get found out. But if you move with genuine integrity and you're just a nice, good person, people will help you along the way. So I went into work. as a paralegal in a telecoms company in the legal team. And honestly, I worked with some of the most fantastic people. They were great. You know, we still talk today. And considering when I joined, I was 22. They were already hitting their 30s, and I looked at them as, oh my God, you know, they're so grown up. They're really experienced. And now I'm almost 34, looking back, and you know, I'm thinking, wow, you know, it's the age gap isn't really that big in when you put it into perspective. But they were great mentors, and they really helped to build my skills and my foundations in the industry. You know, I'm really good friends with one of my former colleagues from that company, but is now a colleague at my current company.
Oh, right.
And had sort of, you know, facilitated me applying for the job that I'm in today. So, you know, maintaining contacts, really important, and just, you know, using them as well when the time comes. And
just for the benefit of our listeners, whilst we're talking about your career, are there any key tips you would give to someone? So say yourself, when you were 20 looking to embark upon a legal career, what key tips would you give yourself?
What is really important is get experience. What, you know, even just getting office experience, shadowing somebody, spending a couple of days with, you know, someone who works in sales, or if you can get relevant work experience in, you know, maybe just sit in on some meetings for a company's legal team. Maybe they'll take you on for a few days. Look, my mum was incredible at sort of forward thinking, and she did her absolute best to give me the best footing in life, right? So when I was from the age of, you know, I was in school, you know, when in year 9 you do like a week or 2 weeks work experience, she would always, you know, kind of nail it down for me wherever she worked. You know, she's always had really good relationships with people, and she spoke to the head of the IT department. This was at the time when IT was really quite, you know, new. In-house computers were just becoming a thing. The internet was pretty much just born, kind of thing. So, you know, she got me 2 weeks work experience working in the IT team, and I got to put on a shirt, put on my tie at the age of 13, 14 or something, go in and actually see what the environment is like. And she did a similar thing when I was about 16 or 17. She worked for a pharmaceutical company, and they had an in-house legal team. And she just asked one of the general counsels there if I can come in for a week and just see what they do. And honestly, that pays dividends, because if you can put something on your CV to say, look, I was in the room with these people, I listened to this, you pick up key sort of terms that they were using, and build on that experience. And then, you know, you can, it just demonstrates that you've taken initiative. Someone's given you an opportunity, you've taken it, you made it through the experience, and you learned something, you know, and that really goes a long way. So whenever you can, you know, reach out to people, talk to friends' parents, who do they know, and just try and get a little bit of work experience. That is my sort of first tip.
Yeah.
Second tip, move with intention. Okay? Because when I was at university, I already knew that I'm going to have to work probably twice as hard to get a job. Forget about a training contract, right? Because I applied, I tried, nothing came through, didn't really get many interviews and things. So I said, okay, I'm going to have to really put it in here, build some contacts to try and get into it. So I had good relationships with my lecturers. I would see them frequently. We'd talk about issues that I might have with some of the work. I needed to understand it better. They really sat down with me, took their time. And one of my lecturers, you know, I asked her, shout out Vanessa, she's awesome. She, you know, gave me my first opportunity. I asked her for some help with my CV, because we were in third year. I knew I had to, move with intention, start to get ready for what's coming. She spent a lot of time with me, sort of finessing my CV. And, you have to be sort of forward with these things as well. So I said, look, if you know anyone that's looking for a junior, I'll do anything as long as it's within the profession, I'll be a paralegal, I'll photocopy, I just want to get my foot in the door. And, who am I to her, right? She doesn't know me. People generally find it really challenging to recommend people because you could let them down. It's their reputation as well, right? And she said, oh, yeah, I'll have a think. And lo and behold, a school where her kids went at the time, one of the other parents was this COO, the operating officer for this telecoms company. He knew that she's a lecturer of a law college at the university, and he asked her, do you have any soon-to-be graduate law students that would be interested to come in and help us with some of the work that we're doing and support the team in the legal team? And ding, first name that came to mind, I think at least, was mine, because I had been with her. She saw what my CV looked like. She knew what was on it, first of all, so she knew I wasn't completely fresh. Did little bits and bobs. And she thought, oh, I potentially have someone here that could be suitable. She spoke to me about it. She coached me, for the interview. I'm sure she didn't want me to embarrass her or anything like that, so fair enough. But it was also great because I've never been to a real sort of professional interview, sit around the table and be quizzed and questioned and all that stuff. So next thing you know, I got the job, and the rest is history, as they say. So tip number 2, move with intention. Think about what you need to do, where you need to be, who you need to talk to, build contacts, start early, work on your CV, really get advice from people. But genuinely as well. Don't just be going to, come up to me, oh, please give me work experience. You have to also prove yourself.
No, I really like that. I think moving with intention is so pivotal. And actually, I just want to, while I can remember, to thank you for being so open and honest about your experiences, because I think
it's important, man. It's important.
It's important.
People look at us and think, maybe, really well put together guys, and they're lawyers, they've got it made, but in the background there's a lot going on, and we need to be honest about that.
No, I completely agree. And while I'm not saying you aren't talented, I think what your journey does show is that hard work, consistency in your effort and application has beaten talent, and has meant you are where you are today. And
I'm so proud of that. And when we were putting together the concept for this podcast and coming up with a name, this was one of the first sort of ideas that came to mind, because I thought, what, if you work hard enough and you put your all into something, your hard work will always outbeat talent, because as the saying goes, which is where this comes from, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And there's very few people that are going to outwork me. I bet if I'm saying I'm going to do it, we're going to do this. We're going to get there.
Resilience.
And so, sorry, I didn't really make it clear. So I finished uni in 2011, and I qualified in 2000 and what are we in 2020? 2019.
Wow.
So the journey was long, but I was always progressing. I was always moving up. I was learning a lot. And, by the time I was in sort of my second professional job, I'm only in my third professional job now, right? When I was in my second professional job, my colleagues and even my manager at the time said, I'm doing work at the level of a 1 to 2 year post-qualified solicitor. I was a paralegal, corporate paralegal. So that gave me confidence in my next job when I go in. Okay, I'm not going in and they're going to expect me to be negotiating contracts and things. I'm going to have to demonstrate again that I have the skills. But I knew that, I will be able to show my abilities. So when I went in there, I started doing certain more legal technical type stuff. I was supporting on the sort of contracting systems, things like that. But it wasn't long before I was, looking at NDAs, you know, and novation agreements,
non-disclosure agreements for
non-disclosure agreements, and then moving on to customer-facing deal work, right? And then when I qualified, I was officially a commercial solicitor, and you know, now we're closing multi-million-pound deals. So,
come on,
you know. It's one of those ones, but it's
it's a journey.
Don't be disheartened if it's going to take you longer. And you know, I think when we were in Mallorca that time, and one of the, you know, we were having dinner and we were asking sort of questions about some of the things we would tell our younger selves, and my thing is, don't rush. Everything will come at the right time. What's for you will be for you, as long as you're putting in the work, the consistency, all of those things. It will come. It will come. So, you know, I had my confidence issues at times. I thought, oh, I'm never going to get there. This is, you know, it's taking so long. Everyone's so far ahead of me. But, you know, you just got to pick yourself back up and plug away.
I heard a quote the other day, that character determines destiny. and what you've described shows what I deem to be an impeccable character, and it's no surprise you are what you are today.
Appreciate it, bro.
So that's a bit about Niki and what you do now, but I think it'd be quite helpful for the guests to understand your background. So if you could, in a few words, describe as best you can your parents' journey, and how that shaped you.
Okay. So, as I mentioned, I was born in Ukraine, Western Ukraine, a town called Khmelnytsky, small town, you know, a couple of 100,000 people. I mean, by Ukrainian standards, it's like a city. It's quite a big city, about 4 hours west of Kiev. You know, the typical kind of post-Soviet upbringing. You know, I mean, I was born in '88, so it was just at the end of the Union splitting up. I still, you know, I had memories of our hometown, our flat that we had there. So I was, you know, I mean, my parents were like 26 when they had me. I've got one older brother. He was born in '80, so he's 42 now, or soon to be 42. Look, I mean, we lived in sort of the traditional Soviet-built flat, you know, flats. It's like a apartment building. It was a 1-bedroom apartment, so there was 4 of us in there at the time. You know, my brothers, and my bedroom was the living room essentially that converted into the bedroom in the evening. But, you know, saying that, even in those days, I'd never felt like I was without. You know, we always had what we needed. There was always food on the table. We had a roof over our head, and you know, we had great people around us. You know, my parents especially. You know, they were great. And then my parents decided to immigrate to the UK, which I try to go back and think about how this, you know, even sort of comes about, and how they must have been feeling. You know, they were 31 at the time. I'm nearly 34, as I said, and I thought, Jesus, man, like, they were 31, 2 kids, a 5-year-old and like a 13-year-old. You know, post-Soviet era, jobs are drying up, situation's quite rubbish. An opportunity came up for us to go. You know, somehow we all got a visa. Sometimes, you know, there could be complications. You know, one of the kids may get rejected, so they know you're going to come back, kind of thing. And we came over here with, and this is the story as my mum tells me, with our suitcases, a couple of £100 of borrowed money, and we just kind of, you know, we had friends here already who helped us move over. We stayed with them for a few months, and you know, when the council sort of, you know, they put us up in a place after a few months. I mean, when, you know, even, sorry.
Then I was going to ask, before you were in the council, am I right in thinking you lived at a church for a while? Yeah,
so there's a Russian Orthodox church in Chiswick, and I think my parents' friends had a hand in sort of setting it up, and at least, you know, that they were involved with, you know, running it and being the vicar and all that kind of thing. So yeah, we stayed there for a little while, and then we got a place, and you know, we moved into this council house in Brentford. which was due to be demolished, right? And my mum tells me now that, you know, when she sort of kind of walked in there and subsequently into the flat where I ended up growing up, which was on a high-rise estate in West London as well, you know, she kind of thought, Jesus, what did we leave? We left family, friends, familiarity, and we came to this, you know, because, bro, like my brother's and I's bedroom, mine and my brother's bedroom, you know, there was like a crack in the wall and you could see daylight through it, you know. This building was ready to come down, right? Yeah. So we had like a mattress up against the wall because of the draft, you know, but it was home for the time being. And, you know, my parents made it very livable, very comfortable. You know, I wouldn't say we were like, you know, covered in mold and all that, you know, it was fine, but I can imagine for them it was difficult. But as a young kid, you know, I'm just a kid, I'm going to school, I'm having a good time and whatever. And
you've alluded to it there, but could you give us an overview of your upbringing socially, educationally, and also economically? I think it would be helpful to think about, from there to where you are now. Absolutely. So, you know, I think that kind of sets the scene of the early days. And because they did eventually demolish those houses, we were moved into the flat where I spent the rest of my sort of upbringing on this high-rise council estate, where, you know, my mum even lives to today. So moving into that environment, you know, I grew up in such a diverse community with people who were there for probably 10 to 15 years before we moved in, and then lived, you know, some of them have sadly passed away, and, you know, but some still live there now, and they remember me from the age of sort of 6. You know, now I'm a grown man, I come to visit my mum, and, you know, we still say hello and stuff. But it's, you know, to me, it was just life. It was normal. I never felt like we went without, you know, my mum worked incredibly hard, and you know, shortly after we kind of moved into the flat where I spent a lot of time, you know, my parents sadly got divorced, and my mum was, you know, the sole provider for us. You know, she worked 2 cleaning jobs, £2.50 an hour a pop. You know, I had to walk to work because she didn't have enough, you know, money for the bus, and, you know, all those types of things, you know. She worked very hard to develop herself. You know, she invested a lot in herself to learn. She went to college and learned English quite quickly because it's critical, right? We came with no English. I went to primary school, I couldn't speak a word of English, so you know, I was like that foreign kid in the class that, why can't he communicate with us? You know, he doesn't. And mind you, I didn't go to school in Ukraine yet as well, so because they start a bit later. So when I came here, it was so foreign to me. My parents just dropped me off one day, and I was like, oh my God, you know, I'm on my own now. So I learned English really quickly being at that age. But my mum went to college, learned English, then she did an IT diploma, because, you know, we came here for opportunity, and she was very much had that at the forefront of her mind, because otherwise why do it, right? And she wanted to give us opportunities as well. So yeah, I mean, you know, she was the breadwinner to 2 young kids, again, working very hard, developing herself, and you know, she cleaned. She was a cleaner at an office. They saw her potential, right? You know, she's a wonderful person, wonderful woman, and they gave her an opportunity. She got a job she worked for this sort of Petro Alliance company that you know, pumped oil kind of thing. And so she got a job in the print room, and, you know, very male dominant sort of department. At the time, you could still smoke in the office, so the clouds of smoke in the print room, and, you know, she's there lugging stuff around, and then from there, you know, again, another opportunity. She took an administration job in the same building, just upstairs. Literally moving up.
Literally moving up. So, you know, I mean, her trajectory from that point has been insane. You know, she's deputy general manager now at a pharmaceutical in the regulatory team. You know, she's absolutely killing it. But testament to her, you know, I saw that growing up. So not only did she do the sort of providing stuff, she also set many examples for us of how to work hard and, you know, how to be as people as well, and things like that. So, you know, I think a lot of like my resilience and my kind of intention and determination not to fail, but achieve what I set out to achieve, is because I think in the back of my mind, you know, my parents didn't come here for nothing, right? They came to open doors. I'm not going to let them down, for them and also for myself, because I know I'm capable. So, yeah.
No, again, thanks for being so open. I think it's such an interesting discussion to think about how our parents' journeys have shaped our experiences, and how we stand on their shoulders, right? Because we've not had to drag two kids across country to country,
Alex,
right?
like we have it so easy, you know, and into, you know, personally, where when you look back and you think sort of more introspectively about the journeys they've had and the things they've had to overcome, you know, we're just like scratching beneath the surface now in this discussion, because, you know, we're time limited, but you just think, wow, talk about resilience.
When you do it, it's mad.
You know, like, you know, we have to be very grateful, very appreciative for what we have, and
100%. And it's great that you have that perspective, because some people won't even realize that.
And I think, you know, we're going to touch on this, but this is one of the reasons we're doing this, because we fully appreciate and have gratitude for you know, the kind of parents we've had and how fortunate we are, because it's a lottery, right? You're born into your situation, that it is what it is. And certainly for myself, you know, I'm conscious that not everyone may be as lucky as I was to have, like, you know, a mum like mine, and now, you know, I've got a brilliant stepdad as well. My mum remarried, you know, he's a really great guy as well, and so we want to be able to drop some of these gems and just talk about our stories, and also talk to people who can share their experiences, and you know, hopefully other people get benefit from it.
100%. And very quickly, you did allude to some of them, but what would you say were the 3 key principles you learned growing up, and how did you learn them? Very quickly.
Okay. So I think, you know, the background that I came from, like, hard work. And, you know, I've said this several times now, you know, in this episode, but hard work. You have to work hard. You know, we'll have lazy days, but, you know, you have to work hard. And that came definitely from my mum. Be respectful. Respect people. Respect yourself. You know, I think respect goes a very long way. Always try to think, you know, if something was to happen, you know, how would it make you feel, right? And if it makes you feel some type of way, maybe consider how that might make someone else feel, right? We're individuals, so it's not necessarily always applicable to one to the other. But, you know, I think we're more alike than we are different. So definitely respect, a huge one. Treat people with respect. And third one, integrity. Has to be integrity. You know, you have to be, you know, man, woman, be a person of character. I think it's really important.
Hard work, respect, and integrity, I think, are 3 fantastic principles. Very simple, but it's very easy to get them wrong.
And I think if you have those 3 pillars as a you know, baseline, I think you'll be all right in life.
Thank you. Wrapping up now, books, podcasts that you're listening to or have listened to or read and would recommend, and why? I think that would be an interesting one.
Little bit cliche as well. You know, look, if you're interested in it, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's a great book, right? There's a lot to take away from it, but that was one I really enjoyed, again, because I like the business side of things. I structure my life like a business. You know, I've got spreadsheets for days on budgeting and this and that. So that's quite important to me. And actually, I think, you know, everyone could actually take that a bit more seriously in their own lives, I think. And I think throughout this podcast, we'll touch a lot on that. Yeah.
Including myself.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's really important. So those are the you know, a couple of books that I think are good to start on.
No, it's funny. I recently asked a group of friends to tell me which books they would recommend, and Rich Dad Poor Dad came up multiple times as the key read.
Look, it's quite cliche, right? It's like a meme now, but I think it's very good. I think it's very good.
Read it and make your own opinion.
Absolutely.
And then, finally, I must express my thanks. I've learned a lot about you in this
I'm glad.
this podcast, and it's been really interesting. But if you could share some of the reasons why starting this and sharing your journey, interviewing other people, why is Hard Work Beats Talent as a concept and as a podcast important to you? Yeah,
so I touched upon this just now. I'm very grateful and feel I was fortunate to kind of, you know, it was hard, right? Our sort of journey hasn't been easy. My parents' journey hasn't been easy, but I wouldn't have it any other way, right? I've learned a lot. My mum's taught me a lot. And you know, it's made me the person I am today. And I appreciate that not everyone necessarily has the benefit of that. Or, you know, we live in a real sort of society where the perfect is the norm. And I would really like to talk to younger people, even people of our age or older, right? We're always going through a journey. And just giving some of the truths about what we've learned, what other people have learned throughout their life. Like you say, draw on their wisdom and their mistakes, and hopefully inspire some people to, if they're making a shift in career or they're thinking of doing something different or trying something new, you know, inspiring them and giving them the knowledge and the info on what they need to do to get into something, and maybe understand a little bit about what's involved, and also see the types of people that end up there, right? Who knew that I might one day become a solicitor and, you know, property investor and all of this kind of stuff, having come from where I've come from. Yeah. Right. I probably didn't even guess it. My parents probably didn't even think about it. Right. We're like living this dream. So that's one side of it. And also, you know, we get to a certain age and you think, right, we've learned so many things. Let's share the knowledge, right? There could be, you know, a 20-year-old or whatever. There could be even a 50-year-old that maybe doesn't fully understand how a credit card works. And it'd be great to share that knowledge, give people a little, you know, a bit of more information so they're more informed. And yeah, that's it really. Hopefully we can impact some people.
Remove barriers to entry.
Absolutely, man.
Well, no, that's been super insightful and really informative, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. Even if we were to have it outside, I've learned so much about from this, and
which is crazy, right? We've known each other for quite a while now, but I think when you sit down and really sort of break into things, you learn new things. So,
well, no, thank you very much, Niki. And
that's great. I'm looking forward to where this takes us. You know, this is our first and second episode that, you know, we're going to release on ourselves, and you know, we want to give an overview and a bit of background about ourselves to our listeners and viewers. Hopefully, you know, they enjoy it, and I'm super excited to get some of our guests on. We know some really interesting people, but I think throughout, you know, this series we're going to speak to some really interesting people. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. No, thanks so much again. And
appreciate it. Nice one. We'll catch you on the next one. Yeah.